Welcome live to Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, New York, where this afternoon the Varsity Media Sports Network presents a showdown of Catholic League powerhouses as the visiting Royals of Christ the King come to the Grand Concourse to take on the host Cardinals of Cardinal Hayes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Dylan Butler here with John Perez. And John, there is a buzz in the building here on a Sunday afternoon at Cardinal Hayes. Anytime you put the two teams, or two of the three teams this year, who are favorite to win the Catholic League, and the third team being Archbishop Stepanak, anytime you put two of those two teams on the court at the same time, there will be that necessary buzz.
There's a reason why this is the most popular high school league in the nation. And, just getting in here today, it took me 20 minutes lying all the way out to the street on the Grand Concourse with all of the luminaries and fans that want to come into this game. And, yeah, it's star-studded affair, to say the least. Two very talented teams despite their records, and it's going to be a fun one today. Circled this one on the calendar way back in the summer when the schedules were announced.
Yeah, both head coaches kind of downplay it, as you would expect. They're saying, well, it's December. You don't win a championship in December. That comes in March. But I think the stepping stones can be made, right? You have a big win here. It could be that stepping-off platform for you as you go into the new year.
Well, it's their job to tamp down expectations. If we look at last year with Cardinal Hayes, specifically about their top 25 rating in the nation, Joe Lode's always tried to downplay it and try and keep his team calm, and eventually that's what led them to persevere and win a city title over Stepanak and not getting caught up in all of that. But, of course, it doesn't help us in the media who are trying to make this a bigger matchup than what it might seem in December. If you're asking me, this is a huge matchup between these two, because when we came into this year, a lot of the talk was how top-heavy this Catholic League could be. And now you've got Christ the King and Cardinal Hayes really early on in the schedule going against tough non-city folk opponents. We'll get a good litmus test of how the top portion of this league is going to pan out.
Yeah, we had the first of those maybe three matchups, you would say, or four of these kind of litmus tests of the season a couple of weeks ago here on a Friday night, where Archbishop Stepanak came in and they beat Cardinal Hayes, and now it's Christ the King and Hayes, Stepanak and Christ the King, and, of course, the rematch of Hayes at Stepanak. Those are your marquee matchups in the Catholic League this year. Christ the King comes into this game with a 2-2 record. They are coming off a loss, a 62-51 defeat at Sierra Canyon, which was preceded by a big road win at Bishop Lachlan. So they played two games out in London. They played out in California. That's the life of, the Nike schools, if you will, and Cardinal Hayes is in a similar boat. So that said, though, 2-2 at this point of the season, Joe Arbitello, when he sort of looked at where his team could be and looked at all the matchups, kind of thought, that's not a bad place to be.
Not a bad place to be. Said that he felt that his team could have been 3-1, is fine with 2-2. And a staple of Joe Arbitello has been, I want to see how tough my team is in December, see what's wrong with them so I could fix them for February and March. And that's exactly what it is. Obviously, they're not going to play Sierra Canyon again, but when you get the athletes specifically of Bronny James, the son of Scottie Pippen as well, and just a star-studded Sierra Canyon lineup, that is a good litmus test for Christ the King to see how they fare against one of the toughest leagues in the country, and, of course, a very star-studded Cardinal Hayes bunch.
Yeah, Sierra Canyon had the sons of three NBA or former NBA players. LeBron James' two sons were on the team. Scottie Pippen's son, as well as Penny Hardaway's son. Of course, Kyan Anthony on Christ the King. There might not be the same luminaries as there was. LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony were both in attendance in Sierra Canyon. Melo is here in attendance. We also believe we will see Coach Calipari, who is recruiting. There you see Melo pre-game. Kardashians, though, we don't believe are here. We think they're still in California, but kind of crazy to think how a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid had all of those. Scottie Pippen was in attendance. Like, these are big-time people in their fields, and they were there to see some high school basketball.
Yeah, and, it's interesting because Christ the King played at the Staples Center last year, but there were more stars over there. They're going to play in front of Carmelo Anthony this entire year and probably the rest of Kyan Anthony's career. I thought it was interesting when Carmelo came over to the table and said that he downloaded the Varsity Media app. I thought that was a very nice gesture out of Melo. But, yeah, these are guys that are used to playing in front of, obviously, celebrities and should be a fun one today. And, obviously, if you're going to call some of these coaches like John Calipari, should I say John Shire, possibly Bill Self, they're going to be used to it and it doesn't faze them.
Let's take a look at some of our players to watch for this game. First for the visiting Royals of Christ the King. And Darren Savino, the UCLA assistant coach, in the house to watch a future Bruin in Brandon Williams, 6'7" senior. You see his numbers there, 13.5 points a game and 5.8 rebounds. And you and I both love the game of Pong Quinn Phong, a guy who does everything for this Royals team, a guy who's also improved greatly from his sophomore year to his junior year, and he's only getting better.
Had the chance to see him at Iona Prep in the summer, and he took that camp by storm. Was the number one talked about player. He's grown a couple of inches, only going to grow more. He could step out and shoot it. He could drive to the rim. I think personally right now he's the best player in the league, but we'll see after this game where that stacks up.
I'm not going to quite go there yet with you, but I will say the best player on this Christ the King team. I think he's shown that to this point. Cardinal Hayes, a team that's in a little bit of turmoil in December, 2-4. That's not the record we're used to seeing out of Cardinal Hayes. And again, they've played a ridiculous schedule, right? They go 1-1 out in Texas, where they beat Pinkston. They lose to Lake Highlands. They went out to Arizona, where they lost to the number one team in the country in Duncanville. Then they lost to Perry from Arizona. So the loss here to Steppenhack as well. So it's uncharted territory a little bit for Joe Lode's Cardinals.
A little bit of uncharted territory, but also if you just look at how action-packed Cardinal Hayes was last year and how talented they were, obviously when you don't have a DJ Victory or Tobe Owaka and you're going against a tough schedule, you have to fill the void. But Cardinal Hayes feels that they have players in the wings that could fill that void, but it's going to take a much longer process. Having said that, though, for Cardinal Hayes, there's nowhere to go from here. They've got the home court advantage. I mean, Cardinal Hayes is virtually unbeatable here before Steppenhack beat them on opening night. A good opportunity to get into the winners column, build some confidence, and take that going into the Christmas and holiday break.
That's where I would say this is maybe a bigger game for Cardinal Hayes than it is for Christ the King, because you can't lose, I think, two premier home games before January on your schedule. Let's take a look at their players to watch for Cardinal Hayes. Jaden Williams, their versatile 6'4" senior. You see the offer from Lincoln College. He continues to do well. Those offers will continue to raise as well. He's going to be huge this afternoon, more so for his defense. He's the best defensive player for Cardinal Hayes. We expect likely to see him on Pong Quinn Phong, so that should be a fun matchup. And, of course, Ian Jackson, the number 2 ranked player in the country, the reason why John Calipari is in the house. We see him in the corner by the Christ the King bench, making sure he gets a good look at what he hopes is one of his future players.
Yeah, Ian Jackson. I mean, what can you say about Ian Jackson that hasn't already been said? So dynamic, can attack the rim, has developed his shooting. The one thing this year that at least has been a little bit of a separator from last year is Jackson hasn't finished as strong at the rim. Obviously, we know he's got the ability to do so, but it's only a matter of time before those shots inside the paint start to fall for Jackson, but he'll be fine, and Cardinal Hayes is going to follow his lead this year.
Let's take a look at the starting lineup for both teams. First, for the visitors from Christ the King, it's Markel Alston, the sophomore guard, along with Devin Vanterpool, Dwayne Pierce, Pong Quinn Phong, and Brandon Williams. Missing from that starting 5 as a result of a 2-game suspension is Brandon Gardner, the St. John's bound senior, another of their 6'9" forces inside. Of course, the head coach for Christ the King is Joe Arbitello in his 15th season, a 1995 graduate of Christ the King. Took over as head coach in 2008 after serving as the JV assistant, the head varsity B coach, the head girls JV coach, also the principal now at Christ the King. Let's take a look at the starters for Cardinal Hayes now, and a little bit of a change from previous games. You see Tyleek Fields starting at point, along with Choppa Moore, the junior standout guard, Ian Jackson, Jaden Williams, and Jordan Skyer is one of the freshman standout for Cardinal Hayes in the starting 5. For head coach Joe Lodes, also in his 15th season out of St. Francis Prep, a 1993 graduate, also joined by associate head coach or co-head coach Tim Philp.
Good opportunity for Jordan Skyers, the freshman, getting some opportunities here against the good Christ the King team.
Take a quick timeout. We'll have the starting tip for this one as you're watching this Catholic basketball showdown on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
If you're an event organizer looking for a media company to cover live streaming, action photography, and game video for your event, look no further. Varsity Media travels throughout the Northeast covering weekend tournaments, showcases, and championships. Contact us today to learn about our services and packages at 516-403-2050 or visit us online at varsitymedia.net.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to Cardinal Hayes. Dylan Butler here, John Perez courtside here at Cardinal Hayes in this Catholic League showdown presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank. Starting lineups being introduced to the crowds. We'll show you a little bit of a tail of the tape right now between these two teams. We'll talk about the travel schedule for both, John, and certainly pretty crazy when you think about it. You see their records, 2-4 for Cardinal Hayes, the defending Catholic League champions, 2-2 for Christ the King. You see the points per game. Obviously, the storied history of both programs. Christ the King with 10 AA championships. Cardinal Hayes with 4, although they also have a few A championships. You see the last meeting, that was in the Catholic quarterfinals a year ago, a 70-47 win for Cardinal Hayes en route to that championship. And look at the miles traveled this season.
Certainly racking up the frequent flyer miles as well. But, you know, we were talking about how much these two coaches, and you think about it, they both started around the same time, Arbitello and Loads, how much they've turned these into elite high school programs, specifically backed by Nike. And it just goes to show that it's not just a popular program on either side within the tri-state area, but a national brand for Christ the King and Cardinal Hayes.
There you see the huddle for Cardinal Hayes. Our officials for today's showdown, Anthony Calisi, Ray Downs, and Brandon Camel. Should be a fun one, John, between, again, two of the top teams, not only in the Catholic League, but, you know, you can make the argument in the country, right? Both have been ranked nationally this season. As you see Joe Loads breaking the huddle with the Cardinals. Christ the King, more recent. They were, I think, at last check, 22 or 23 in the country by ESPN. That was before that Sierra Canyon game, so we'll see if that changed things at all. But certainly, again, two of the top teams in the Catholic League, a big reason why there's a big crowd out here for a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, packed to the gills, and that's exactly how you would have it. Cardinal Hayes, one of the best home court advantages, too, and a great fan base, so good to see them out in attendance. But I did see a couple of Christ the King fans as we filtered in today, too.
Yeah, they made their way from Middle Village, that's for sure. Off the tip, Quinn Fong hands it off to Alston, just a sophomore, running the point. Quite a history, as we'll talk more about that in this broadcast, of terrific sophomore guards, and there's Dwayne Pierce with the first bucket of this game.
You know, Pierce, only a junior, really developed his shooting over the offseason, and that's one of the tools in his arsenal.
Jackson steps back iron, 3, no good. Skyers tried to get the rebound. It goes to Williams, though. Bounce pass in the corner, that's Vanterpool. They throw it inside, took a couple of deflections. And it goes to Jackson. Captain Jack to the hole, and a blocking foul is called on Alston.
Really bouncy player, has a good second step and could just accelerate like he was shot out of a cannon, can get to the hole.
So Jackson to the line to shoot 2. The junior, number 2 in the country in the class of 2024 by ESPN, misses his first free throw. And there you see some of the offers on your screen. Kentucky, LSU, Syracuse, on and on as Jackson knocks down the second. Vanterpool doubled in the corner. Harassed. Really good defense by Elijah Moore, and it's Cardinal Hayes ball.
I think that's one thing, too, and having looked over the tape for Cardinal Hayes, too, is how much the improved defense of Choppa Moore has been as well. And, obviously one of the best shooters in the country, but if he could add some defense to his elements, boy, is he going to be an even better prospect than he already is.
And there he is on the ball. Choppa, hands off. 3-point attempt. Off rim, no good. Vanterpool, the rebound. Alston goes back to Vanterpool. Man-to-man D for Hayes, and that one deflects off of Skyers. And you love Skyers' energy as well, and he's injected into the starting lineup here this afternoon, partially because of just that.
And someone who's a really good defender in transition, too. Christ the King, if they can run, they'll do so, and that's somebody that can stop the ball and slow it down in a half court.
Vanterpool hands off. There's Williams. Ooh, sticks us to his left. Tries to play a two-man game with Quinfong, and it's Skyers going the other way, and Alston already now picking up his second foul.
Oh, we talked about the valuable experience for this freshman of getting an opportunity to get some run early on, and you know what? An opportunity, too, for him to tell the coaching staff, hey, listen, I know that I'm not normally a starter, but maybe just give me a couple of more minutes, work that way out there. And you know what? If this is a team that wants to go deep, they're going to need a lot of depth and use that depth if they want to go back-to-back for a city championship.
Yeah, Skyer is part of a really talented freshman group on this varsity team. You bring in a Trey Lewis as well as, and maybe the best of them is still injured. Magic Mel, they call him. Jermel Thomas dealing with a hip injury. He's expected back after the start of the new year.
Interested to see how Christ the King runs the show. They bring in TJ Oliver, who Joe Arbitello says sometimes is better than the starting point guard and could be a starter on any other team. So Christ the King already down their starting one guard, and we'll see how they navigate the offense in this first half.
Williams called for a hand check underneath his first, so it'll be Oliver, senior from Brooklyn, to inbound underneath. To Quinfong. Good defense by Williams. Jackson in transition. He's got options, and he's blocked away by Williams.
You could see what UCLA loved when they landed Brandon Williams. Just his athletic ability, has some good size, and a fantastic wingspan.
Jackson. Interesting here, too. We're seeing him more on the ball, right? Tries to reverse it to Choppa Moore. It's intercepted. Vanterpool's having issues, loses it to Williams. Jackson. Moore. Fields drives to the hole at Quinfong, and he finishes at the hole.
Fantastic job taking it to the rim, and Quinfong a little late getting over, and Cardinal Hayes was able to take advantage.
5-2 early on for Cardinal Hayes. There's Vanterpool, foul line jumper, back iron, no good. Hayes in transition. Choppa Moore, also back iron. No good. Here comes Brandon Williams. A little finger roll, and a blocking foul is called on Fields.
Good job running downhill was Mr. Williams and getting Fields to pick up his first. And, Brandon Williams does so many things well. 6'9" senior, obviously headed to UCLA, and what's interesting is that Arbitello says he doesn't really have to do a lot of things, but the things that he does do are at an elite level, and that goes to getting to the paint, his defense, things that a top prospect like him and what the Bruins are waiting for will definitely use next year.
Was able to go out and see a UCLA practice when Christ the King was out at Sierra Canyon, and a little dose of reality of what to expect with Mick Cronin, right? Kind of barking things out and the aggression that and the intensity of a Division I practice. It was his entire team got to see it, which was fun too. More hands off. There's Williams from the corner. 3! And it's good.
Didn't have a lot of space to shoot that ball, but Williams so good from the corner.
And now Skyers with some defense. Williams, baseline. Oliver rejected by Williams. Vanterpool in the lane, and he is fouled. Foul on Williams, and that is his second.
Kind of a tough break there. Jaden Williams, the glue guy for Cardinal Hayes, and someone that can rebound as well. And with the size that Christ the King has, that's a huge second foul. And Lodes not bringing anybody to the scorer's table as of yet. And I think that's one thing, too, that helps with your team. And now Williams goes to the bench. But what I was going to say was, we see it sometimes with Arbitello, where he'll have his players play in foul trouble. He doesn't call timeouts because he wants them to figure it out themselves. Joe Lode's a little bit of a contrasting style, not saying that he's a micromanager, but will have his hands more involved in the game, and that's why Cardinal Hayes is successful too. Different ways to carve a turkey, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Vanderpool knocks down both. 8-5 is your score. Early goings here of the first quarter. So glad you're able to join us this Sunday afternoon on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Skyers goes in the corner. Njai in the game for the first time. That 3 rims out. Williams now in transition. Quinn Fong!
I mean, just an acrobatic finish. He really can do it all at the rim, and boy, is he just so fun to watch.
That's been a big improvement in his game, right? He was known as a shooter previously. He's added this extra element. What a rebound. Chapa Moore off the mark. And now Christ the King looks to get something in transition. Williams to the hole for 2.
Brandon Williams really playing up to the competition, finishing strong at the rim, and a good floater is true.
9-8 for Christ the King. 3 ball by Skyers off the mark. And man, Brandon Williams, John Perez, is everywhere this afternoon. That ball knocked out, and it stays with the Royals.
He's been everywhere. You could see the absence of Jaden Williams really affecting Cardinal Hayes on the glass. Either way, Brandon Williams will take that, not apologizing or feeling bad for the Cardinals, and interested to see if Christ the King keeps throwing it down towards Williams.
The thing, too, about this Christ the King team is now it's Quinn Fong inside being fouled. Foul was on Fields, his second, as we have a timeout. But the thing, too, about Christ the King, I think, John, is especially with the Williams and a Quinn Fong, and when you bring in a Gardner, now you've got big-time matchup problems for other teams.
I think what's interesting is as you go up the levels, you want space and you want shooters. But when it comes to the high school level, when you've got 3 bigs that can run the floor, how do you stop them? And that's going to be the biggest question mark for all of these coaches that are playing against Christ the King this year. How do we stop that 3-headed monster? And Dylan, I don't envy the conundrums that they have.
And it's a 3-headed monster that's all 6'9",
right?
So it's now added size and athleticism, and it also gives Joe Arbitello the added ability to kind of pick and choose how he wants to play and who he wants to play and what kind of different looks he can have. Quinn Fong to the line, knocks down the first.
One thing that's really been interesting about watching Kin Fong on the tape is how fundamentally sound and smooth that he is. And we know that his father attended NBA camps. He moved over here from China with his mother. But when you have that athletic background, or it's in the genes, I mean, hey, we saw it in the Sierra Canyon game, right? That's the biggest difference right there. And Pong, no exception.
Finished his sophomore season with no offers. Now has a litany of them, and those offers will just continue to pile up. Njai's got a bunch of offers as well. He hands off to Williams back in the game. Intercepted by Vanderpool. Vanderpool to the hole, off the glass and in.
Vanderpool's offense sparking from his defense. The lockdown defender for Christ the King doing a good job running the floor, and with the wristband on and all. Devin Vanderpool is one of the fun players to watch Christ the King as well.
Njai off the Solano screen. Into the corner to Jackson. Solano called for the charge.
Only a matter of time before Christ the King got a charge call for them, too. They've done a good job taking the body blows down low, and they finally get a call to go their way.
First on Solano, the team's fifth. 13-8, the lead for Christ the King. TJ Oliver doubled. Into the corner we go. Extra pass, Vanderpool's three off the mark. Elijah Moore hands off to Williams. So many fun matchups, individual matchups in this one. We mentioned the coaching matchups. It's what makes this league great, which makes this game great, as Moore, the floater.
And right over Devin Vanderpool as well. And Choppa Moore saying, you know what, I'll take the test, and aces it with flying colors.
Three by Pierce off the mark. Solano gets the rebound. Solano actually was enrolled in Christ the King as a freshman, ended up going out to Donda Academy in California. Donda closed its doors, and Solano found his way here to Cardinal Hayes. Extra pass, Njai. Back rim, no good. Battle for the loose ball. Ooh, and that's going to be a foul against Williams, and that will be his third. So you've got your best defender now being forced back to the bench.
And we're reaching an inflection point early on in this game for Cardinal Hayes is who's going to fill that void on the glass and defensively. And it's time to step up for Cardinal Hayes.
Cayenne Anthony into the game. A little travel on the baseline against Pierce. I think you and I were both really impressed with Cayenne Anthony's game. Also out in California. Just the mechanics. And look, yes, obviously coming from great genetics, but his ability to shoot and be ready to shoot when he gets the ball, something really impressive. Pierce! Baseline jam.
I don't think you needed many fundamentals to get up on that and slam it home, and Pierce doing a good job accelerating and elevating to the rack.
The lead extends to 15-10, final minute here of this first quarter, and a foul called on Anthony.
Elijah Moore sometimes, too, gets away with hooking the defenders, and sometimes you get that call as an upperclassman as well, and only a sophomore for Cayenne Anthony, and that's something that Arbitell is telling Ray Downs on the other side. But having said that, though, interested to see how Anthony defends here for Christ the King, and that's one area that he's looking to improve on this year.
Jackson slipped on the court, a jump ball. Good recognition there as well by Bryce Merchant, the senior forward, to get down, force the jump. It will stay with Hayes, though. As here's Njai. About a 5-second differential between shot and game clock, though. It doesn't seem either team are too worried about the shot clock here this afternoon. Njai doubled by the Christ the King bench. Gets to Jackson. Quick pass up top to Moore. Stops the foul line. Didn't shoot it. Instead goes into Solano. Front rim, no good. We go the other way. Anthony inside, rejected by Solano. Moore ahead of the field. Captain Jack with the flush at the buzzer.
Fantastic job on the other end defensively for Cardinal Hayes, leading to the run out. Let's take another look. I mean, can you stop Captain Jack in the open floor? I haven't seen anybody do it yet. Boy, he is scintillating for Cardinal Hayes.
The best in the country at doing just that. First quarter in the books. It's been a fun one so far. It's Christ the King with a 15-12 lead. You're watching this Catholic League showdown presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to Cardinal Hayes. Dylan Butler, John Perez here with you as the second quarter about to begin. It's Christ the King with a 15-12 lead in this Catholic basketball showdown presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank. Ball intercepted. Here comes Cardinal Hayes in transition. Skyers loses it momentarily. Back out to Njai. Njai down low. Captain Jack reverse. No good. Oliver the rebound. Intercepted. Solano!
Cardinal Hayes needed a statement, and what better than that two-handed jam for Solano.
1 point lead now for Christ the King. Oliver hands off. There is Kyan Anthony. Just recently getting a offer from Syracuse. Of course, his dad, one of the greatest, Solano. Rejected Quinn Fong, but also called for the foul, his second. The team's seventh, so Quinn Fong will go to the line to shoot free throws.
I think, Dylan, if you just had a list of Power 5 schools and then tried to attach the offers, you'd get a lot of cross-pollination there as Kin Fong hits the first one. And, I mean, there you go, St. John's, Michigan, Villanova.
And also adding to those, Fordham, GW, Illinois, Iona, Marist, UMass, Michigan, on and on. There's Michigan there, Oregon, Missouri, URI, Rutgers. Second rim's out.
I don't want to speculate and go into potential depth charts. I'll just say that any team that gets Pong King Fong will instantly elevate.
16-14 the lead for Christ the King. Jackson in the corner. Side rim, no good. Solano battling for the ball. A jump ball. Look at this ferocious battle. And the finish inside by Jackson.
I think for Jackson, he needs a few to fall down as well. Had an open three, didn't hit it. Missed the reverse layup on the other end, too. Have to wonder if there's maybe a little nerves for Jackson with Calipari and all the luminaries in attendance.
Jackson the steal and the nice, pretty finish at the basket. He is heating up now. 7 for Ian Jackson.
I guess he's fine.
Good ball movement, Njai, and I like what I'm seeing defensively from Cardinal Hayes. A little bit more of that intensity, and you wonder if that's been talked about or on display these last couple of days of practice.
It has to be, because you know Christ the King can attack the rim, and you want to be physical and set a tone early on that it's not going to be easy underneath. But Williams catching Cardinal Hayes sleeping. That was going to fall down regardless of an offensive goaltending call. But just as I was going to say, you want to establish yourself inside Brandon Williams, who, let's be honest, will never win at hide and seek. Goes right underneath the basket and gets the deuce.
5 for him early on. Njai. Drive, the floater, no good. Quinn Fong lost it momentarily, but their foul will be called on the floor. It's against Njai.
I think the one thing, though, is that with Cardinal Hayes trying to establish itself defensively, it really hasn't shooken up Christ the King, and they're continuing to push the agenda, put the pedal to the metal, and that's what good, disciplined, championship caliber teams do.
Quinfon back to the line. He is 3 of 4 from the foul line early goings of this first half. Knocks down his first. A guy who's really bought into this system. He started rebounding, playing defense, no longer just a shooter. And we see him attack the basket as well. And hey, those things happen. The offers come as well. Jackson off the screen. Look at his move by Jackson, rejected from behind by Quinfong. Christ the King in transition. Williams inside. No good. Gets his own rebound. Also no good. And Moore collects the rebound. Goes to Skyers. Njai, baseline. Shut off there well by Quinfong. Three-pointer. Skyers rims around, no good. Alston back in the game. There's Anthony. Hands off to Quinfong. Vanterpool up top to Alston. Drives left. Alston high off the glass, no good. Quinfong. Battle for the loose ball. It's won there by Jackson. Here comes Hayes in transition. Choppamore thought about it. Goes to the hole! And one!
You see what the pump fake can do for you when you know that Choppamore can knock down a three. We'll take another look as off the pump fake, he's able to go to the rim and win the battle over Vanderpool.
So Vanderpool picks up his first, the team's fourth. And Moore unable to complete the three-point play. 20 all here, approaching the midway point here of this second quarter. Skyers, Njai, Alston says no. Christ the King in transition. Quinfong, little volleyball off the back, and Vanderpool finishes.
Christ the King doing a good job running the floor, filling the lanes, and getting the bucket and taking the lead back.
6 for Devin. Choppa Moore, no good. Anthony the rebounds. Ooh, look out. Jackson nearly with the strip. And Cardinal Hayes does get the interception. Choppa Moore ahead of the field. Captain Jack again.
Christ the King not getting back in transition. Captain Jack taking advantage, and that's one of the things, too. If you're Christ the King and you're pushing the agenda and starting to run, you don't fall back on defense, and Cardinal Hayes will make you pay.
Alston drives, loses it. Nearly a traveling violation. The Hayes coaches wanted that, and Anthony on the double was fouled. Foul on Njai, his second and the team's ninth. So this sends Cayenne Anthony to the foul line. Not that there's extra pressure on Cayenne, but he gets to do so right in front of his parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all subsided. But, you know, he's so fundamentally sound, and he's only a sophomore. It's going to be interesting to see as the years go on and he develops muscle and gets some separation there, what kind of player he can be. We obviously know Carmelo, one of the best players of all time at Syracuse, and obviously one of the top 75 players of all time in NBA history. So it's a big shoes to fill, but I don't think he's feeling the pressure.
Jackson for three.
And boy, did Cardinal Hayes need an answer from downtown. Wasn't shooting the ball particularly well in this season. At times has been spotty from downtown, especially when Moore's not hitting his threes. And for Cardinal Hayes, you hope that seeing the ball going into the rim can start to snowball for them.
12 now for Jackson. Alston pulls up. Oh, that was sweet. Alston's first two of this game. A 1-point game now. Choppa Moore. Skyers, a little bit out of control. Quinfong takes it away. Jackson again getting in the passing lane. Doing a good job of that early on.
Yeah, it looked like a goalie parrying it away on a potential off break, and some of the defensive matchups have been really fun to watch. For instance, Jackson on transition defense, he's done a good job. I don't think Devin Vanderpool has left the side of Elijah Moore since this game started. So those are two fun things to keep an eye out for. We know what these two teams could do offensively. Obviously, it's going to be one in the trenches.
Alston. Oh, 2 more for the sophomore. Again, you're going to a school and you're playing the position that Omar Cook and Eric Barkley and Speedy Claxton played as sophomores. So it's a lot of pressure as Jackson, he is heating up. Back-to-back triples for Ian Jackson. And he's got Hayes leading by 2.
You don't want Jackson to get hot, and I don't think it's up to Christ the King in that regard, but we'd like to see Williams get a little more involved in the offense.
Rejection, baseline, Jackson with it. Skyers to the hole. And Jackson, it'll be a jump ball. And we will stay with Cardinal Hayes.
Could have gone either way. Good call, and see how Hayes sets it up.
15 for Jackson now. And all but 3 coming in the second quarter. Why not? Front rim, no good. Alston. In the lane. We go the other way. Choppa Moore. No good. You've got to finish those opportunities if you're Cardinal Hayes. Quinn Fong with authority.
And a stare down to the crowd as well. He can run the floor with authority, forcing Cardinal Hayes to call the timeout.
Another look. Oh.
How can you not be excited to watch Pong Kin Fong play basketball? He is just so precisional, does a good job running the floor, not a one-trick pony. He is fantastic, and I think one of the best players to watch and maybe one of the favorites to win Player of the Year in the CHSAA.
Well, good news, John. We'll have another opportunity to watch him on Tuesday. Let's take a look at Christ the King upcoming schedule as the Royals will return home to Middle Village, Metropolitan Avenue, to take on those Terriers from St. Francis Prep. That'll be Tuesday, 7:30. Should be a fun one there, and you see Christ the King's schedule going forward as well at St. Peter's. St. Peter's, a team that beat Archbishop Stepinac, so a team to look out for there. You've got Menlo from California making their way to Middle Village. That matchup against St. Raymond's, move to Rutgers, and then always fun when it's Malloy and Christ the King on a Friday night. That'll be on January 6th.
Should be a fun one, and just add up the I know they're not going to fly to Rutgers, although if you want to gas up the private jet, why not? But yeah, just Christ the King once again going on the road even further, probably about an hour and a half south to Piscataway.
In our conversation with Joe Lodes, kind of thought, well, maybe that's something that's a positive, right? Maybe you're done with a lot of the big-time travel. They still have to go up to the Hoop Hall up in Springfield, Mass., the Basketball Hall of Fame. He said, no, we still got to go to Kentucky, play their best team as well, as a foul called on Vanterpool. That'll be his second.
I think that's been one of the renaissance moments for Joe Lodes, and Arbitello talked about it with Lodes, is that early on in Lodes' career, he was very gung-ho on winning every single game and trying to inflate his record. And, you know, not to say that coaches don't want to win every game, but, you know, sometimes there are some coaches out there that'll just try and inflate their records and not play the best competition. Lodes has changed that over the years, and with Cardinal Hayes playing these tougher non-conference schedules, it's only helped them and have some excellence over the last half-decade.
And let's be honest, too, it helps the brand. It helps you bring in student-athletes as well. And I think when you've got some of the best players, and Ian Jackson, number 2 in the country as well, you pretty much have to play that kind of schedule as well. All these tournaments looking for you as well. Oh, Quinn Fong, what a first half he has had.
Slams it home, pull up from the free throw line. He and Jackson have lived up to the billing.
11 for Pong as it's a 2-point lead for the Royals. Jackson hands off. Njai fakes the three. Probably a good decision because he's got Quinfong on him. 16 seconds left, about a 5-second differential from shot to game clock. Njai into the corner. Extra pass. Step down. Oh, terrific shot. As your shooter, the other freshman I didn't mention before, Owen Zabel! And Pierce with the walk-off three. Are you kidding me? Incredible stuff. Let's take a look again if we have the opportunity. First you get Zabel, and watch this from Pierce from his own side of midcourt. An incredible three-pointer by Dwayne Pierce, and it's a 33-30 lead for Christ the King at the half. We're joined now at halftime by Christ the King head coach Joe Arbitello. And Joe, I know that you said it's only December, but listen, there's a buzz in the building here. It's a great matchup between two quality Catholic League teams, and I think it's kind of lived up to that here in this first half. What would you think?
I think so. I mean, everybody wants to say it's a game in December like myself, but when they get on the court, they want to win. I think that's just the nature of Cardinal Hayes and Christ the King.
And last play, just how you drew it up, right?
Exactly.
But having said that, though, defensively, your team doing a good job stopping them outside of the perimeter. What can you assess the success of the defense in the first half?
I mean, guys are playing hard. I think they're on the floor. I think they're committed to defense. Defense hasn't been our problem all year. It's been the offense. I'm happy with the way we're moving a little bit more. It's not great, but it's a lot better than it's been.
Joe, what do you want to see from your team at the second half?
I just want to see the same intensity, you know. I'm happy with the way that we've been playing to this point, so hopefully we can match the second half like that.
Joe Arbitello, head coach Christ King, thanks for joining us
you.
here, and good luck in the second half.
Thanks.
Halftime here at Cardinal Hayes, and off of that remarkable three by Dwayne Pierce, it's the Royals with a 33-30 lead. You're watching this Catholic League showdown presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Hi, I'm Gene Sterator, CBS Rules Analyst and longtime sports official. For the adults watching this video, you grew up in a world where officials, umpires, and referees for youth sports took their place regularly and reliably ahead of game time. Today, unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder to fill those jobs. Videos showing abusive treatment of officials multiply on social media. And there have been consequences for the dreadful behavior of players, fans, and coaches. Massive shortages of officials now lead to games being canceled, and the positive effects of athletic competition are at critical risk for this generation and those to come. I'm hoping we all can begin to see youth competition through a different lens. Today, mistreatment of officials has become normalized, and we are facing an abnormal future where no officials to hire means no games on the schedule.
Any call, any decision, any human effect on wins and losses has become subject to not just withering criticism, but physical threats. There's a vicious cycle at work. Fans chase away officials, and there is a smaller pool to draw from, which makes it harder to get quality, well-trained people in position. The entire game suffers.
Did you know, according to the National Federation of High Schools, 80% of new officials quit the game after just 2 seasons because of abusive behavior from the stands and sidelines? This sort of verbal abuse and threatening behavior takes a toll on all officials and makes them leave the game altogether.
Did you know from 2018 to 2022, an estimated 50,000 high school referees, roughly 20%, have quit? Half of the remaining referee population is at least 50 years old, but young officials are rarely staying more than 3 years in the job.
If the number of officials working contests in all sports doesn't begin to increase, there won't be enough officials to work the games. That means schedules will get cut, teams or even sports might get canceled. In many states, this is already happening.
Remember that officials are invested in what they do. Many officials have regular, full-time jobs, and they're sacrificing time away from their families. Try to demonstrate empathy, put yourself in their position. Think how you would feel about getting yelled at throughout your workday.
Yelling and arguing with officials sends the wrong message to young players. According to Play by the Rules Sports Advocacy, it teaches them that it's not okay to make a mistake. They can blame others for their actions. They can disrespect authority figures. And it's okay to be rude and selfish.
You know, officials enforce rules, keep competitions fair, and make player safety a priority, allowing youth sports to be a valuable arena for growth. If we can all just work together and be more empathetic to not just the officials, but everyone else in youth and high school sports, we can then preserve what many of us have embraced about athletics. And you and I know the benefits of sports, right? Let's spread that gratitude and be proud of what we can build and not blind to how it's being torn down. Calling officials cheaters or corrupt, it's not a game.
Insulting referees, it's not a game.
Threatening officials, it's not a game.
Berating young umpires, learning the ropes, it's not a game.
Violent language in the stands, it's not a game.
Verbal abuse from the sideline, it's not a game.
Screaming at a referee in the parking lot, it's not a game.
So what happens now? Your response in the heat of the moment is the only thing you totally control, and we have an experiment for you to try. Simply stated, just cheer for your child or the team you're there to support. Move that desire to lash out to a different place and encourage without rage. Your child's sporting memory should be about how you helped inspire and not about how you caused embarrassment.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
I said there are two things that you're going to be responsible for the rest of your life. And that's your physical health and your financial health.
Varsity Media is the tri-state area sports leader. We offer an array of services for any team, coach, player, athletic director, and parent. From game film to live streaming, we are available to cover your event anytime, any place. Looking for an enhanced experience? How about a professional broadcast with multiple camera angles, announcers, graphics, and instant replay? Need a highlight reel? We produce individual highlights for college recruiting and team highlight videos for end-of-season banquets. And when it comes to social media, nobody has you covered better than us. Hype videos, sideline highlights. We can tailor custom videos to make your team stand out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Why waste your time dealing with anyone else? When it comes to sports video, Varsity Media stands alone. Contact us at 516-403-2050 or online at varsitymedia.net.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to Cardinal Hayes. Dylan Butler here along with John Perez. And
hey, down in front.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
You're blocking our luminary shot here.
Only on live TV, right? Only on live TV. If I were to tell you, Dylan, that is John Calipari back there, would you believe me?
Yes, I saw him before.
Okay. All right, good. But this would not hold up in a court of law. But I think there he is. There we go. There's Joe. I think as we pan down too, it's not just John Calipari. You've got Orlando Antigua sitting there as well. His assistant coach Shaheen Holloway in attendance as well. And you saw what Shaheen was able to do with St. Peter's last year. He wants to take Seton Hall to the Elite Eight, potential Final Four, and then of course Lala and Carmelo Anthony down underneath the basket. By the way, Cayenne almost took out Lala on one of those layups. She pushed him back into the play. I'm not sure if you get a little assist on that, but Cayenne got back on defense. But, we just talked about how marquee this game was. I know that both coaches are downplaying it. That's their job. But, how can you look at these two baselines and not see that this is anything more than a game in December?
And that's the funny thing, right? That one baseline are coaches and obviously in Mello and Lala, some VIPs as well. And then you go to the other side. That's the student section, which is standing room only for Cardinal Hayes, and also the entire baseline filled with photographers, videographers, and the like. Inside, Williams rejected as we start the second half. Leading scorers for both teams, Ian Jackson leads the way early on. 15 first half points for Ian Jackson, 11 for Pong Quinfong. Jackson, tough baseline jumper off the mark. Here comes Alston in transition. Vanterpool down low. Goes around. Oh, that's a nice, easy finish for Dwayne Pierce, who finished the first half with a remarkable long-distance three from the other side of midcourt.
Yeah, I think that 2-footer was a lot easier than the 87-footer.
Njai down low looking for Solano. Tipped out. We go the other way. Pierce, another easy two.
We talked about Pierce and the Christ the King frequent traveler miles. Well, how about Pierce, too, who moved from where? Amityville over to New Jersey, and there you see the press junket in as well and the student section behind it. Just type this game in Google, and first off, you should be watching it here, and if you're not, you watch it on the Varsity Media Pass. But if you just Google this game, I'm sure you'll get all of their channels up as well with footage from this contest.
Yeah, you mentioned Dwayne Pierce, right? Was originally from Amityville, now living in New Jersey, and he makes his way every morning to Metropolitan Avenue. That's not an easy commute. It's not easy in the borough of Queens by mass transit to get to Christ the King. We got the M train right there, right?
Well, what he does probably, he goes into Penn Station, walks over to Herald Square. You just take the M all the way home.
It's a lot of stops, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm not saying it's fast.
So maybe he should get the Varsity Media Pass. A lot of things to get watch.
Yes, and it's above ground.
There you go. Jackson rims out, no good. Flashing out is Pierce. Hands off, an extra step there taken by Quinfong.
Quinfong caught between a pass and accelerating to the cup, and that's what happens and what causes those turnovers, and he'll learn from that. Just momentarily lapse in judgment there.
There's a handoff. It's Njai. Switches to his left. Bounce pass down low. Solano loses it. We go the other way. Alston to the hole, and he's hit hard by Solano.
Love the size of Solano and how he gets up and down on the floor, too. And, you know, we talked obviously last year about how Cardinal Hayes does a good job defending with Tobe Owaka, and obviously those are big shoes to fill, but you're still going to need a rim protector, and still waiting for Solano to do so. Joe Lodes believes that he is the answer to that, and, you know, just not an easy thing to do for Cardinal Hayes, but he'll get there.
See Alston knocking down his first free throw. You see some of the offers there for the sophomore point guard of Christ the King. St. John's, Illinois, UAB, George Mason, Creighton, and Manhattan. He knocks down both. 39-30, the lead for Christ the King. We had a few times in the first half the game was tied, and this is currently the largest lead for the Royals. Skyers hands off to Jackson with Alston on him. Switches to his left, loses it inside. And again, the leak out and the finish at the rim by Williams.
That was started on the other end by Devin Vanderpool, poking it free. Williams with the finish. And just how can you stop Christ the King when they're running downhill?
And Alston called for the foul, his third, as he tried to get the tap on the reach around. We're seeing now a situation where every time Cardinal Hayes either turns it over or misses, Pierce getting the leak out and an opportunity to finish, or in this situation, get it to Williams, and Christ the King really finishing in transition well.
Well, and they've predominantly over the years of Arbitello done well in transition. Here we go.
And another flush by Williams. Stares down the student section, and another timeout for Cardinal Hayes.
When Christ the King is clicking on all cylinders, they're getting it done in transition. It starts with their defense, leading to the leak out, the two-handed flush. We'll look at it again. Once again, the defense and Brandon Williams, the future UCLA Bruin, throwing it down in the Bronx.
I think the thing in that huddle maybe you're talking about right now is it was Williams and Quinn Fong were the first two down the court. Where's our defense, right? So it's a staple of certainly Tim Philp and what he's been able to do with this team. But it's a 13-point deficit for Cardinal Hayes, and it doesn't get easier for the Cardinals moving forward. You see their upcoming schedule, a game we'll have for you here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. Iona Prep, a team that won at St. Raymond's, coming here to the Grand Concourse, and then a short trip to the Gauchos Gym to take on St. Francis of Maryland. And then it's at Mount, at St. Ray's, and then Zavarian coming up here as well. Going down to Bay Ridge to take on Zavarian.
Doesn't get much easier for Cardinal Hayes. You know that their talent will certainly help them out and kind of get through these rough waters. But, you know, Cardinal Hayes, we talk about the top heaviness of this league, and Christ the King has just boat raced them today.
Skyers, high floater, no good. Alston. The Royals, it seems, can smell blood. Pierce going at Jackson. Jackson swats it away, but it goes to Alston. Alston versus Skyers. And a traveling violation called against Williams.
Arbitello telling his team, particularly Pong King Fong, move. We've got to move around. We can't have a stagnant offense, and agree with him there.
That's something that Joe Lodes has said about his team as well, that not moving off ball. Forced jumper there by Njai, no good. Alston. 13-point lead for the Royals. Alston down low. Good job by Skyers jumping in to the passing lane. Into the corner. This guy's got to heat up. That's a deep two for Elijah Moore. He's got 6.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Christ the King was able to solve him in the first half. Elijah Moore has to create his own shot. He's a very good catch-and-shoot shooter, but if he starts to create his own shot, that's how Cardinal Hayes gets back in this game.
And that's something that Joe Arbitello said was key, right? You got to shut down one of their guys. If it's not Jackson, you got to shut down Moore. Alston switches it. Good ball movement for the Royals. Corner 3 by Pierce, no good. And Jackson gets the rebound. Here come the Cardinals. Ian Jackson splits defenders, no good. Williams hands off. It's Alston to the glass.
And once again, the defense leading to the offense. Kin Fong, as the 3 doesn't fall for Elijah Moore, but Kin Fong gets the stop. It leads to a 3-on-1. Cardinal Hayes does not get back, and another bucket for the Royals.
Alston. Vanterpool for 3. Oh, it's good. 9 for Vanterpool, the lead. 48-32 now for the Royals. Moore. Up top. Looks to drive on Quinpong. Hands off. Njai for 3. No good. Same team. Rebound goes to Pierce. Vanterpool. Williams on Jackson.
Calling something against Pong Kin Fong, as that was Anthony Calise underneath making the call. Not sure if maybe it's a delay of game warning or what Pong is going to be called for, but just Brandon Williams doing a good job on the interior there. Ian Jackson, tough assignment to stop Williams, who runs downhill. And it might be early. It's getting late early for Cardinal Hayes, but you could have a couple of different players of the game for Christ the King as Moore cans the 3.
It was 17-2 in this third quarter until that 3 by Elijah Moore. And this again was a tie game before Pierce went out and nailed that 3, right, to beat the buzzer at halftime. And then from that point, it felt like the momentum actually carried over through halftime and into the second half as well for the Royals.
You can't see it unless you're here in the gymnasium, but Christ the King has literally shot the lights out. Like, there's just been a darker hue over the last 30 seconds, and they've just been exceptional defensively, and it's led to their offense. And, like Arbitello said, you have to stop somebody, or you have to stop Moore or Jackson. For Christ the King, who do you stop? If you're an opposing coach, who do you key on?
Vanterpool from 3. Back-to-back triples for Devin Vanterpool. Runner in the lane, and fouled on his way up was Owen Zabel. And my apologies before. I was talking about all these great freshmen that Hayes has. Forgot to mention Zabel, who makes his way from Greenwich, Connecticut every day.
Yeah, not the easiest trek. I don't think 14-year-olds can have their license yet, so that's a long trip down if he's not getting a ride. But, yeah, this Cardinal Hayes team, they're built for the future, as the present and the future, which is good. And they've got a good young core that Joe Lodes and Tim Philp have to be very excited about.
Zabel goes 1 of 2, 53-36 now the lead for Christ the King. Alston. Quinfong back out to Williams. Puts it behind his back. Elbow jumper. Eight in the third quarter for Williams. 3 rims around. Quinfong gets the rebound. 8 of 13 for Brandon Williams. Final minute of this third quarter. And what a third quarter it's been for the visitors from Middle Village. Quinfong spins, and he's fouled on his way up.
Has a good step attacking from the wing is Quinfong, and you just look back at how Christ the King built this lead, going 20, like outscoring Cardinal Hayes 20-2 basically in the second quarter, number one. But this all started in the beginning for Cardinal Hayes. They weren't doing a good job defensively, had a couple of starters in foul trouble as well. That contributed to Christ the King really attacking on the glass. They shut down Cardinal Hayes from downtown, and they're just taking advantage on the Cardinals' miscues.
Quinn Fong goes 1 of 2. He's got 12 now, final 38 seconds of a dominant third quarter for the visitors. Oh, that's one way to get back in it. Elijah Moore, Chapa with his second 3 of this third quarter. More importantly, though, for Cardinal Hayes, they need a stop. Shot clock off. Vanterpool, he's been hot as well in this third quarter from beyond the arc. Guarded closely by Skyers, and Skyers then called for the foul from behind.
Tough foul to take in that spot because you bail out Christ the King, and they'll restart it with 12.7 to play in this third quarter. But
TJ Oliver inbounds underneath. Williams, the size mismatch, and he takes advantage. 10 in this third quarter for the UCLA commit. 3 from Fields, rims around and out. And a huge third quarter for the Royals, and they've opened up a 19-point lead. They've done it in a variety of ways, but this guy has been red hot. Brandon Williams, another jumper there. 10 points in this third quarter alone. And it's Christ the King with a 58-39 lead after 3. You're watching this Catholic League Basketball Showdown presented by Maspeth Federal Savings Bank on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to Cardinal Hayes. Dylan Butler, John Perez here with you. Fourth quarter just underway. Vanterpool with the steal for Christ the King, who outscored Cardinal Hayes 25-9 in that third quarter. A big reason why their lead has ballooned to nearly 20 at this point. Oliver, no good. Hayes has to chip away. It's not easy, but it's also not impossible. But you can't do that.
Right, you can't turn it over in that spot, and you don't need more than just Ian Jackson to heat up. And they did a good job on Jackson in this game. You have the points there, Dylan, for Jackson, and he'll probably finish around 25, but it was a tough 25 for him. But outside of that, Christ the King's done a good job of shutting down the other 4 on the floor.
Yeah, Jackson has 15, was held scoreless in that third quarter.
Probably the first time since CYO, right? He's been held scoreless in a quarter.
And what we're seeing from Christ the King is it's been multiple guys as a push was called on Vanterpool. But you've got, I'll still have to tally it all up, but I believe we've got 4 Royals right now in double figures.
And it seems like it. I mean, who's been the hero for Christ the King today? You can make the argument for Williams, Kin Fong, as well as Vanterpool or Dwayne Pierce. Right? Did I miss someone?
Vanterpool battling for that ball. Timeout called by Christ the King. Yeah, I mean, look, going through the scoring right now, it's Williams, the leading scorer for Christ the King with 15. You've got 12 for Quinn Fong, 12 for Vanterpool, 11 for Pierce. And then Alston just on the precipice there with 8.
And did we mention how good defensively Vanderpool has been on Elijah Moore? You know, Brandon Williams doing a good job disrupting Jackson at the rim and going at him as well. And then Kin Fong having a great second quarter. You know, it's not just those points. There's a lot of context behind those points and filling up the stat sheet. And listen, it's not over yet, and we know that Cardinal Hayes can turn on their offense at the snap of a finger. But for Christ the King, you have to be very pleased with where you're at this juncture of the game.
Elijah Moore, with his couple of threes in that third quarter and bucket as well, he's now in double figures with 12. But he's a guy, and that's the thing, right? Like what Joe Albertella said, you've got to shut down one of those guys. In the first half, it was defending against Moore. Second half to this point, it's been defending against Jackson. And there's been no answer for that man inside. 2 more for Williams. Finger roll. And Jackson, his first 2 points of this second half.
I think one thing, too, for Cardinal Hayes is they're down 19. Obviously, you want to chip away, but you want to diversify your offense as well. Get some open looks from 3, and there's a steal from Jackson, an easy deuce.
Jackson with the dunk, back-to-back buckets now for Ian Jackson. And leaking out there was Williams. He's called for the foul, though, and that's his 4th.
I think one thing, too, that's going to be interesting the rest of at least this portion here before Arbitello goes to his benches. We'll keep an eye on Taheen Oliver, who's got the ball right now. This is a big time for him, the backup point guard, to soak up some valuable minutes and see how he runs the show. Because there are going to be times this year where Alston is in foul trouble and he'll have to take over.
Skyers 3 off the mark. And there is TJ Oliver. Guarded by Moore. Hands off to Williams. Pierce posting up inside. Oh, the strength by Pierce.
That looked like that viral clip of when Zion had the littler defender on him when he was at Spartanburg High School, and there's a foul the other way on Oliver.
Well, the foul is a charge called on Ian Jackson.
Oh, check that.
Tyleek Fields coming in for Skyers now for Cardinal Hayes. They trail 62-43. They're coming off a 78-47 loss to Perry, Arizona. And that came off a loss, or following a loss to Duncanville, the number 1 team in the country. Vanderpool 3, no good. Zabel the rebounds. Williams rims out that 3.
Yeah, just a tough day for Williams, picking up the 2 fouls, 3 in the first half as Williams, another pretty finish.
Yeah, not a tough day for that Williams, that is for sure. 2 more for him. Jaden Williams, 3 rims out. And Quinn Fong, the rebounds. 64-43, the lead for Christ the King. I'm not sure anybody saw the game going this way, especially the way that it was cooking in that first half. Oh, Pierce. He's just like a man among boys. 15 now for Dwayne Pierce. Choppa Moore, 3 no good. Quinn Fong didn't even have to get up, and you're starting to get the feel of this almost feeling like one of those scrimmages that you have in November.
And credit to Christ the King.
Oh! The exclamation point! Brandon Williams from the baseline.
This has been the Brandon Williams show in the second half as Jackson gets the finger roll and a timeout taken by Loads. But Brandon Williams coming to play. You don't think he watches the rankings and sees the rest of the talent amongst the city? I mean, he's got 21 blackjack right there. He's been fantastic today for the Royals.
Coming up on Tuesday night, we've got more Christ the King basketball as we go back to league play in the Brooklyn Queens division. St. Francis Prep and Christ the King, the Terriers, 5-0 on the year, coming off a 63-58 win over Zavarian on Friday night. Josh Pasquarelli, Marist bound, 24-8. Love Veer Anthony, their sophomore point guard. That should be a fun one as well. You put Alston and Veer Anthony against each other in that game. Anthony, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and Tyler Michelle and Nigel Moore, 11 points apiece in that win over the Clippers.
A lot of talent in that game, a lot to prove for St. Francis Prep as well. They see themselves in the top half of this league and an opportunity to knock off the Royals.
Their head coach, Jimmy Lynch, perhaps watching this broadcast, had his concerns before this game. Can't imagine that those probably more concerns now after watching what the Royals are doing here. Good foul there by Vanterpool, making sure that Jackson doesn't get a freebie at the basket. That'll be his 4th. So Eaton Jackson to the line.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to keep an eye out for, specifically for Jimmy Lynch and the rest of Christ the King's opponents, is going to be, well, now you've got to pick your poison. But also, as you see the offers again on Jackson, how do you stop Christ the King, number one? Who's the guy that you try and lock down? But I think the other thing, too, is how do you get your guys motivated and able to step up? And that's what Jimmy Lynch has done a good job of for St. Francis Prep. They're not the Sisters of the Poor. They feel that they have a team that can compete in this league and win a league title, and I'm sure they embrace the challenge.
Good defense down low as Williams rejected Quinn Fong. That's just extra effort there by Vanterpool, winning that battle inside.
I mean, if there's a defensive player of the week, or if we were going off the football accolades, give my vote to Devin Vanterpool. He's done a fantastic job. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet, too. Obviously, he's going to have some steals and blocks in there, but he's done a good job of cutting down the passing lanes, getting in front, and stopping the ball, and a fantastic job in the first half on Elijah Moore.
So Jaden Williams fouls out. He finishes up with 3 points. And looks like an opportunity maybe for some additional playing time. Perhaps Quinn Fong now seeing his last time. DeCourcy Corley in the game for the Royals.
Christ the King has mastered their scout to a T. You've got 3 minutes, and this is still an opportunity, though, for these super subs to come on and prove to Joe Arbitello, hey, give us some playing time here, Coach. I know that it's not exactly the closest of ball games now, but Christ the King, you never know this year. Could have players in foul trouble. You obviously don't want injuries, but that's also a part of the game, and you're going to have to rely on your bench to win some games for you.
Now Vanterpool will go to the bench. And multiple substitutions for both teams into the game. Again, is Merchant for Christ the King. A little bit deeper than Joe Arbitello thought that he'd go today. Kyan Anthony's 3 is no good. Look at the effort inside. You'll love that from Corley, your senior from Brooklyn.
Well, and Corley's been around the program, takes his job very seriously, does a fantastic job in practice, and getting rewarded for a couple of free throws late in the fourth.
First is good, and more subs for the Royals. Second is good. 71-46 the lead. We just saw Vanterpool walk off, holding his shoulder. Maybe something to keep an eye out for as Zabel's 3 rimmed out.
Yeah, Christ the King has a good training staff. They'll sure put some ice on it, or Ben Gay, or whatever it is, to kind of slow it down. But when you have this big of a lead, a luxury is you could go to your bench and get Vanderpool at 100% as Anthony gets the bucket.
His first bucket of the game. 73-46, Christ the King. He mentioned a litmus test. The Royals have passed this test with flying colors. Skyers, no good.
And good defense there by Anthony as well on Skyers. A little sophomore versus freshman matchup. And here's Anthony again in the front court.
Cayenne. Oh! Fields swats it away. Good explosion, though, to the hole by Cayenne Anthony.
Yeah, some good explosion. Like I said, has to fill out a little more, and he'll gain muscle, and he'll just be an elite athlete to watch.
There is Anthony. And we'll go the other way.
And by the way, don't think about don't forget about the pride that some of these Cardinal Hayes athletes are going to have as well, knowing that the name on the back of the jersey for Christ the King, they don't want to give Cayenne Anthony any easy things either.
Look down low, 2 easy ones. That was Canoon Larry. Two more.
Yeah, that was Lewis right there for Christ the King. And 75 spot, not an easy thing to do in 8-minute quarters for Christ the King.
Yeah, we had 2 down as the number for Lewis. It is 32.
Well, he's a fullback, so that's where the numbers come in.
Final minute of a game that has turned one-sided pretty quickly in the third quarter. 3 ball is good. Bryce Merchant, the triple. Inside, couple opportunities there for Nazir Simmons, and he will go to the line. And for Cardinal Hayes, right, what's their story going forward? You've got now a full week again of practice to prepare for the Gales of Iona Prep to come here on Friday night. 2-5 will be Hayes' record. And Joe Arvitello, being sympathetic in our conversation leading up, said, listen, looking at their schedule, 2-5 isn't bad either. Tell that to Joe Lodes and his team right now.
It's not going to feel great for Cardinal Hayes. This is the big learning moment for them, and they'll be tougher for this experience.
I think the concern a little bit, right, as Anthony would just let the clock wind down, is you've got now back-to-back defeats almost by the same score. Perry beat him 78-47, and this will go down as 78-48 for the Royals. A masterclass for the visiting Royals. They win this one 78-48. Big win for Christ the King. We'll take a quick break. We'll have our player of the game when we return right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.
You're watching the Varsity Media Sports Network, the home for New York high school sports.
Maspeth Federal Savings is here through it all. The ins and outs, the ups and downs. Through the winters, the summers, and even the spring of leaks. Know that Maspeth has your back. From luxury sheets to balance sheets to dancing under the stars, your mission is our mission. And when our community calls, we proudly step forward. So whether you need it now or planning for tomorrow, through all the twists and all the turns, you can always find us right here in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to Cardinal Hayes' final score, 78-48. The win for Christ the King, and we're joined by the Royals player of the game, Brandon Williams. UCLA commit, a huge game, a huge second half as well. And Brandon, welcome to the post game. Dylan Butler here, John Perez as well. Huge win for you guys. You went to California. You had a tough loss. You responded, I think, in a big way.
Yeah. California, it was a tough loss. We could have won that game, but we came back to New York, got the job done. Against one of the better teams in the city, so it was a good win to get ourselves back together and regroup as a team.
Brandon, how much did you feel your team needed to make a statement, although it's December, that Christ the King is one of the top teams, if not in the nation, but certainly in the city?
This was big because last year we came up short against the same team, so it was good that we came here and we made a statement, winning by 20 points against the same team that beat us last year to prove we're one of the better teams in the city.
Yeah, Brandon, you had multiple guys in double-figure scoring, and that I think is probably one of the strengths, right, of your team. A lot of different guys who could score the basketball, but you had a huge second half. The third quarter, you guys outscored Cardinal Hayes 25-9. It was 17-2 at one point. Obviously, Pierce sends you off with that crazy three to beat the buzzer. But what was the difference there for you guys in that third quarter?
I mean, we just came out. We came out third quarter with energy. We got a really deep team, a bunch of Division I players. I believe in my teammates. We all believe in each other, and we love each other. So I think the energy just brought us together, and we just clicked when we came out.
You know, looking forward, you get a good St. Francis Prep team coming up ahead. So obviously you don't get a lot of time to enjoy it, but what can this win do for your team going forward?
Just keep us together, tomorrow practice and get ready for the game on Tuesday.
21 points, Brandon Williams. Big win for the Royals in the Bronx. Brandon, thanks for joining us. Congratulations, and we'll see you on Tuesday at home against St. Francis Prep.
Thank you.
So that's Brandon Williams, our player of the game. What a performance from him. But again, I think it speaks to the depth of this team and how dangerous they are that you had multiple guys in double-figure scoring.
Yeah, how do you stop Christ the King? It's not rhetorical. Like, how do you do it, especially when they're clicking on all cylinders, particularly Brandon Williams? He was Christ the King's best player today in the second half. Fantastic, doing a good job defensively. Had a few dunks in there as well, and I like the little winks to the student section after each one of those jams. But, yeah, Christ the King did a good job shutting down a lethal shooter in Elijah Moore. They stuck to the game plan, and there's just a lot of firepower for Christ the King, and I can't wait to see how St. Francis Prep goes against them on Tuesday night. But, Dylan, when it comes to Christ the King, it's hard not to look at this performance and say that they're the favorites in this league, but it's way too early to be throwing out those titles there. But having said that, though, Christ the King, a good resume win over Cardinal Hayes. They'll be happy, but I'm sure for them, too, they're looking forward to St. Francis Prep as well.
And so are we. That's our next SPORTSCAST here on the Varsity Media Sports Network. St. Francis Prep at Christ the King. A battle of Brooklyn, Queens powers. That'll be Middle Village. I believe the tip time is 7 o'clock for that one, or is it 7:30? 7 o'clock, I think it is. But we'll have that one, or 7:30? 7:30 start. Extra time to go to Roses before, so that always works out. That'll do it here from the Bronx. Want to thank our entire cast here with the Varsity Media Sports Network, of course. Executive producer Ben Turchin, our technical director extraordinaire, Chris Sweeney, Travis DeLuise on camera from my broadcast partner, John Perez, Dylan Butler. Thanking you for joining us here from Cardinal Hayes, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time right here on the Varsity Media Sports Network.